Hello, people. This is Mac with Mac Commentary. Also have my guest Bob with me. How are you doing this evening, Bob?
I'm doing just fine, Mac. Thank you for asking. How are you doing?
Doing great. You know, uh, I was very surprised to hear this. I shouldn't say I was surprised. I was just happened to run across this there video, and it's the title of it: "Corrections Officer Fired for Video Mocking Brionna Taylor's Death." Uh, let's listen to that, Bob, for a second. It's sort of a very short clip here.
This is Louisville Metro Corrections Officer Turon Knight at the police department set up at the Kentucky State Fair. He's making a phony recruiting video for LMPD, pretending that he works for them instead of for the jail. The video quickly goes south.
We need backup. Answer the call. Be a part of a great police department. Never mind what happened to Brionna Taylor. We killed that bitch.
Knight doesn't stop there.
You want to drive vehicles like this and fly in planes? Do you want to be able to have unlimited off duty? Do you want to be able to support your family? Do you want to kill people and be able to get off for it? Join the Metro Police Department.
The jail's director, Jerry Collins, said he fired Knight as soon as he could.
We do not tolerate that. That's disgusting. Make you sick to your stomach. That officer should never work in law enforcement again.
The video, so offensive, they said, that the FOP, tasked with defending officers for wrongful termination, jumped on board, saying there is no excuse.
There is no appeal process going to be done on behalf of the FOP. We believe that decision was the right decision, and that should be the final decision.
Knight had worked for the jail since 2018. The video surfaced Tuesday, Collins said. Knight was fired within 2 days.
Was able to, work with the union to accelerate this and get that person out of a uniform as fast as possible.
Okay, Bob, we heard that. And of course, I was somewhat disappointed with it, needless to say, as to how quickly they reacted. Not that the mockery there was not of Brionna Taylor. Actually, this young man was doing a mockery of the police department for how they treated Brionna Taylor and how they operate. But as we've discussed so many times on this show, Bob, how the Caucasides come together and band together, even though they are adversaries. In this particular case, the chief of the jail there and the president of the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, they're adversaries. They are always at each other's throat. But on this particular issue, when it involves a young black man he did something I thought was may be despicable to some, but I don't think he deserved to be fired. But you saw how quickly they rallied together to take that young man's job away from him. They didn't give him a suspension. Yet, the very same police department, even though this guy worked for the correction department in Louisville, the police department, Louisville Police Department, they did not respond like that when the person that killed Brionna Taylor, they didn't say, hey, let's get rid of this guy now, let's do this, let's do that, let's take his certification from him. They done none of that stuff. Matter of fact, they didn't even, they took him through the grand jury there, as we talked about in our last video. And what happened there? They just simply exonerated him. And even you had the DA there, the Attorney General for the state of Kentucky got up there and supported these guys. Said there was nothing they did wrong. Anytime you unload 16 rounds a fuselage like that in a small apartment like that, you intending to kill somebody, no matter if one shot went off or not. You know, first of all, you instigated the situation because you was at the wrong apartment. I mean, you wasn't at the right. You were probably at the right apartment, but you had the wrong guy. I mean, you didn't do your due diligence. But anyway, Bob, how do you take that?
Well, Mac, I look at that circumstance a little bit differently, uh, because I know where I am in America, and I think that and I've lived here all my life, although I've visited other places, and materially, uh, I don't think there is a place of the places that I've visited that are as elaborate with the housing and with all of the material trappings that you have in a country as there is here in America. And many blacks are taking advantage of those material trappings. But we forget about the fact that we are not Caucasoids. And when you do something like that, thinking that you're going to get the same justice that the Caucasoid gets, you're mistaken. I've come to understand that over the years. And so as a result, I don't expect anything other than those things that I see happening even as we speak to Negroid people in America. This is America, and America has not changed since it was founded, or it wasn't really founded, but since it was taken over by the Caucasoid from Europe back in the 1400s. So I'm not surprised by it. I think that we'll continue to see this, and we'll continue to be disappointed because we see ourselves as Americans entitled to all of the rights that the Constitution gives Americans, but those are for Caucasoid Americans and not Negroid Americans, and really not, and even for people who come in here from other countries and become Americanized through the immigration process, they get ahead on the ladder ahead of us because we have never been, and in my opinion, will never be 100% Americans. And I don't like talk. I don't like saying these things, but this reality is reality, and I've been in denial for a long time in my life. So I have to stop being in denial and say what I see. And that's my opinion, Mac.
Well, Bob, I mean, I value your opinion, and I'm not going to disagree with your opinion, but I think it's always a learning opportunity. Anytime we see things like this, I don't think like that young man right there. He doesn't have those years of experience that you have, and many like him, they don't have that experience, and so they make some type of judgments. I mean, first of all, it was a bad judgment on his part to do something in light of the situation that was going down, but he should know the people in his city, police, people he worked with, better than we do. So he should have kind of known what their reaction would be once this thing went live on TikTok or whatever social media platform that he used. maybe he didn't mean for it to go live or to get out there, but it got out there. But my point that I make here, and I make myself perfectly clear for everybody, that you don't do something like this unless you've already thought about the consequences of it. I've seen the times when I've worked on a job, and as I stated on other occasions on this show, is that I used to tell people that used to come on the job with me, I said, now you're going to have to move around here like you're walking on eggshells. And I said, don't stumble, because if you do, you're going to have a boot up you know where, and out the door you go. Because I've had experiences like that myself, and I've seen where caucasoids, they tried to boot me out the door, but I flipped the script on them and said, and identified various other people that they had rallied behind to support. Not that I had done anything, but I stumbled, you know. But I've seen things that other people did that was very serious, and they was of the Caucasoid race. But they rally around them. I didn't get that type of support. I didn't even get that type of support from the people of the Negroids, to be honest with you. And you know that old song they say, Bob, goodbye, bye-bye, something like that. That's all they said to me, you know.
Right.
But I persevered though, Bob, because I knew how to fight back, and I did that with the help of other Negroids and Caucasoids. So you know, we came together because they knew I was in the right. But the thing it is, you have to know what you're doing. You have to plan out when you do things like this. You got to recognize the consequences. And sometimes, you know, we have to be extremely careful. But the thing it is, if we know these things, like you so aptly pointed out there, if we know these things happen, Bob, and we know that they rally together to protect each other, because as you've stated before, they want to protect their race, their majority, and they want to feel their superiority by having the majority. It's the only place that they are superior. But I bring up these things, points like this here, because I think that blacks have got to start learning how, rather than complaining or marching, we have got to learn to pull together. And I don't know, we had it going at one time, but I'm going to tell you, I think there's other forces out here that keeps us apart and that keeps us divided. Because in that old adage, divide and conquer. And they've always got us fighting somebody. If it's not the Asians, it's the Hispanics. Not the Hispanics, it's the Jews. If it's not the Jews, it's the East Indians. They are next. And this is, in this type of environment, they keep us at each other's throat like that. As you can see, as what's going on over in the Sudan over there. They want to divide up they got the country divided up over there, the South Sudan. Now it's a country, and they got Sudan. But then they got two factions there in Sudan that's fighting each other. One backed by the USA, and the other one backed by Russia. And it's a proxy war between Russia and the US. But they are not there physically with boots on the ground, with many boots on the ground. They may have some advisors there. But that's how they like to do, because first of all, the United States got control of the South Sudan. They fought through soft power, is what they call it, when they're U.S. Agency for International Development, aid, started giving money to South Sudan and building up their propaganda down there so they could vote to secede from Sudan and become a country of their own called South Sudan. See, the United States recognized that South Sudan had the oil. Over 3.5 billion barrels of oil in that country. So they wanted to make sure that they had control of that. Because they didn't have that oil, and that cut off the oil from the north, the revenue from the oil up to from the north. And that's the same thing they've been doing to black Americans in this country, Bob, since the advent of slavery. They've divided the blacks in this country through their skin color, their lightness, and the darkness of their pigmentation. How much more melanin one had than the other. How curly or straight one's hair was, the good hair, the bad hair. All of these things, but they not only did that, Bob, doing that to the American Negro, but you go to the other countries, you see the same thing. You go over to the Philippines, you can see stuff very similar. So it's really something all over the world, you know. And true enough, the Americans in this country, the blacks, that is, they got opportunity here. But the opportunity they have, you just go out there, get you, like they used to tell you, go to school, get you an education, and get you a good job, and be happy. You won't have any power, but you'll be happy, right? Because no matter how much wealth a black man has, he really has no power, Bob.
And no respect.
Right. And the only way you can get that is that respect you're talking about. You got to have some power. And how do you get power? You got to have a bunch of greenbacks or something equivalent to that greenback. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And you got to have a force to be reckoned with. I mean, you take certain people in this country who only represent 2% of the population, but they got control of many, many things in this country. And they do that through sticking together, through working together. And I think that some people don't want black people to come together. Every time we start to coming together, there's always a monkey wrench thrown in there to separate or to stop that. And we've talked about this, Bob. Why is it that we have so many killings in this country? And why is it that we don't have as many killings as we have? Why is it that we don't have as many policemen in jail that did the killing illegally? I mean, you shoot somebody in the back, Bob, they tell me that's a coward. That, you know, they don't even shoot deer like that. They try to hit him in the heart. But anyway, Bob, I don't want to go on with that, but you know, but one of the things is I just wanted to demonstrate with that video the difference on how blacks are treated and how they treat blacks and how they work together and treat each other. You go out there and you kill a black, nothing happens to you. You go out there and mock them for what they do, and you lose your job, and you'll never wear another uniform again, as that FOP said, the president of the FOP or whatever his position is. And this
Right.
guy been
Well,
paying him money, been paying that
right,
same money for 3 years, and they supposed to represent him.
right. Well, I again, it's disappointing to have to say these things, but the mistake I think that the Negroid makes in America, and particular, and as a matter of fact, around the world, is that we're on an equal footing, and we are as human beings. We are as equal as any other human being, regardless of your race, your religion, your culture. You are a human being on the same footing as that other human being. But the Caucasoid has set up a system globally that makes sure that you never realize that fact, because it helps in his survival. He's only 5 to 10% of the population of people on the planet. So how can 10% rule 90%? People of color, Negroids, Mongoloids, because the Caucasoid has set up a system wherein whenever you see a Caucasoid, boom, you're supposed to see yourself as an inferior to that Caucasoid. And that's the system under which we live. And it doesn't matter, because I was thinking about what you were saying about the young people. See, young people who haven't been here around, been in this country long enough, they are told that everything is copacetic. This is you're on the same footing as your other American, and
Level
so they
playing
believe that.
field, right?
Huh?
A level playing field, huh?
That's right. That's the term they use. You've got a level playing field, and they believe that. You know, I see youngsters all the time. They believe that there is a level playing field, but that's an illusion. But the Caucasoid uses that to keep people deceived, so that he can perpetrate his evil behavior on the other 90% of the people on the planet.
Well, take an example. What you're talking about, how the world is done. I mean, you notice that that you got everybody. You got South Korea, you got North Korea divided. You had South Vietnam, had North Vietnam divided. You got South Sudan, you got North Sudan divided. And then you got the continent of Africa completely hodgepodge divided, you know?
Yes.
And then you go over there to the Philippines, you got them cut divided from cut off from China, so to speak. You put over there 4 military bases in the Philippines. Now you take your nuclear sub with the nuclear missiles on it, and this sits out in the water there near South Korea, ready for. And what did the president say? He say, if anything goes down, we will wipe out that regime, or something to that effect. Now, he got those people over there divided.
Right.
And what can I say, Bob? I mean, that's the divide and conquer, which was started by the English. England started that. When they came to this country, they divided all up they pitted the different tribes of Indians against each other. They did the same thing in Africa. Everywhere they go, they have a system of divide and conquer. And that's what they're using today in neo-imperialism. So it's nothing new, Bob. It's nothing new.
No, it's not. It's
But
not new.
But I hope that we can get some of our people to understand what has to happen. That until you can build yourself economically and you make yourself powerful, and you can do that. There's 40 million plus blacks in the United States. There should be businesses galore that caters to the black people, owned by black people. In each city, there should be manufacturing jobs. I mean, we got enough people that we could start an automobile company and have our own cars. I mean, that we buy from each other, Bob. I'm not saying that we should discriminate. I'm just saying try to build up our own economic power. And it's going to take the young people to do that now. They got to get focused. All this rap stuff, that's what has destroyed and put us into a stagnant growth area. Sure, they got a lot of money. At least but it was demonstrated they may not have as much as we think they have. As to what happened to Kanye West, he thought he was a billionaire. Well, I mean, $400 million ain't nothing to sneeze at, though. But you could do a lot with that. He could become a billionaire in his own right if he got with the right people and sat down and put together a business plan as to what he wants to do. Maybe one day, Bob, you and I will sit here and we'll discuss something like that, what they could do. But they know what to do. Stop all this BSing and get serious about life and get serious about your race, get serious about loving each other and not hating. That's what has to happen, Bob.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Bob. You have anything you'd like to add on to this before we...
No, Mac, I'm always encouraged by your optimism because I'm not so optimistic. But you're a real plugger for the race, so you keep on plugging.
Well, Bob, I mean, I try to be be an optimist rather than a pessimist because I mean, I think we have so much potential that it's just every time whatever we choose to do, we got to keep it on the lock and key and do it in the wee hours of the night. And then one day they say, how did that happen? You know?
Yeah, sure.
Because once you start to doing it out in the open on the YouTubes and the and these other social media, you're doomed. I mean, we know that the federal government, they got their eyes on all of the social. They own the social media, Bob. People don't realize that. Everything you say on social media is filtered through a process,
Absolutely.
and if it's anything egregious, boom, they're gonna come knocking on your door.
Well, that's why I agree so much with President Trump. I mean, he said they're not coming after me; they're coming after you. And here's a Caucasoid who's been privileged all of his life, and you look at how much turmoil since he tried to filter the swamp, uh, as he called it, whatever it was about the swamp, that he was going to do something about it. And when he became president, he started doing that, drain the swamp. That's what he said he was going to do. And he started draining the swamp, and now they're trying to choke him to death, drain him. So when I see a Caucasoid who has been a privileged, very wealthy, and wealthy to this very day, man, person be treated like that, I know without any equivocation that Bob, you are about like your father used to tell you and your brother. Some of the things that you think about are about as significant as a fish fart in the ocean. And so when I see President Trump being treated like he's being treated as a Caucasoid, a wealthy Caucasoid, the swamp is bigger than we think. It's a global shield all over this planet, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, Bob. And as you got the Atlantic Alliance. I mean, that's one of the biggest elites. They all there. You know, they all go through that process of going through Harvard, Yale, and all of other Ivy League schools. They're all your elites, and that's you can. There are other names you can call them too, but they are the ones that really controlling things with, and they got somebody above them. You know,
Right.
that's
And and
giving.
and I look at it like this. If blacks had the same power that they have, I would expect that blacks would do the same thing.
I
That's what
don't
I would
think so.
expect.
I don't think so, Bob. I think we are cut from a different. I think blacks are cut from a different. If you know, blacks have a lot of more empathy and a more understanding and more love and consideration. I mean, really. I mean, when you come right down to it, you can see how forgiving they are for a lot of things. You may say,
And
well,
I
that,
think that's one of the reasons we have so many difficulties, because we are we do have these soft tendencies as a human being that you're describing. And as a result, we're more compassionate, you know, and you cannot rule the world with compassion. You
well,
got to rule the world
I don't think
with an
that's what.
iron fist and a velvet glove.
I don't think that we should have any body ruling the world. I mean, that's where the whole problem comes at. That's where that power mentality comes in. I mean, we have to get powerful, but we don't have to. We can be powerful and have our own and do certain things, but we don't have to go out there and trod on other people humanity and rights like they are doing. We don't have to do that in order to have a good, sane world. I mean, just because I mean, how much more money that they can how many jets can they have? Can they fly at one time? How many cars can you drive at one time? How many homes can you live in at one time? While you got people suffering all over the world. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, blacks and a lot of other people like the Chinese. I mean, some people, hey, they don't like the Chinese. But I see things that they have done in certain parts of the world that's changing people's lives. Some may not like it even in those parts of the world. But when you sit back and you go in and you look at what it was and what it is now, it's a whole big difference because they may have power too. But they're not just trying to run over people, Bob. They're not trying to try to over other people and make them feel bad and not be able to care for their families and provide for their families. I mean, there's evil and there's good. And if you're a believer in God, you have to believe in the goodness of people. And we have to follow the biblical teaching if you are a Christian or if you, whatever your religion is. You have to follow whatever your higher power states for you. And most religions have some type of doctrine that people go by. The good and the bad. The good and the evil. But with that, Bob, I wanna thank you again, and let's continue to pray for the world, that it may survive all of the things that's happening right now that's may or may not come to fruition. Let's pray that it does not. Some of the things being put into place right now. And I think, as you stated, this may be the beginning or the end. Well, let's pray that it will not be. I want to thank you people for tuning in with us. Continue to subscribe and like and share this video. And we look forward to talking to you again. Have a good evening, Bob.
Yes, and thank you again, Mac. And I'll pray just as you suggested.
Okay.